Hi, and welcome to part two of a three-part recorded webinar from eBECS, the lean thought leader in Microsoft Dynamics AX ERP solutions. Bill Battershell is the CFO of Rochester Gauges in Dallas, Texas. Bill will be telling the story of how Rochester Gauges started its lean journey under Brad Hoffman, the former company COO, a journey which then continued under Bill. Rochester Gauges realized great improvements in processes that resulted in higher profitability and competitiveness. We will be following up each segment of Bill's story with a short demonstration of how eBECS and Dynamics AX supported the lean processes that resulted from the lean transformation in that segment. I'm Mike Hull, General Manager for eBECS North America. eBECS deploys Lean ERP with a team of lean thinking consultants. If you are on a journey similar to that of Rochester Gauges and want to support that journey with Dynamics AX, please contact me at either the phone number or email address on the screen. We can also help you get started on your lean journey. Thank you, and please enjoy this segment of the Rochester Gauges Lean Journey story.
Okay, I'll go on to the next thing that was also very powerful for us. One of the problems that we have is we not only do final assembly, we do sub-assembly products that go into the final assembly. And part of the problem that we were having on the old system is we would get our final assembly scheduled and then find out on the day that the parts that are delivered to the line that the sub-assemblies haven't been built. So one of the powerful features of this is the ability to schedule the final assembly, and it backward schedules your sub-assembly, so your final assembly line is not waiting around for the sub-assemblies to come to them. And we did that through the introduction of Kanbans, and that's something that you would have to do on your factory floor to get this to work correctly, is set those Kanban levels up, be able to get the Kanbans to flow from your sub-assemblies over into your final assemblies, and then we installed a system of water spiders that would then take and move that product on an hourly basis from the sub-assembly cells into the final assembly cells.
In AX 2012, what Rochester did was they implemented various Kanban strategies, various make-to-order strategies throughout their shop floor. In AX 2012, we have a pretty robust Kanban management system within the software itself. And what you see on the screen are kind of all the possibilities that are there to support that type of lean thinking on the floor, those types of Kanban strategies. So what we've got, if you look to the left, are the different types of Kanbans. So for example, if a bin is empty or if you have a signal to do something, you could make something to replenish that signal. You could move something to replenish that signal. That's very common from things like the stock room to the line side, from a warehouse to a warehouse. Or you could purchase in something to replenish that signal, and that purchase would come straight from the vendor. And if you look from left to right, what we call replenishment strategies, what we're trying to do is cover the gamut of supporting lean processes. So from the far left in the make to stock arena, we have what's called fixed Kanbans. And that's your typical 2 or 3 bin system where you have a certain quantity per bin, and it's literally empty, full, empty, full. Very common. This is part of what Rochester did for their more common components, so that they're constantly working towards pull and lower level sub-assemblies where they've got their common parts sitting on the line side, and it's just an empty full process. If you look at the far right in the make-to-order scenario, we have a variety of event Kanbans, and that's what you saw when I entered a sales order. And the premise of that is do nothing in AX until an event tells you to do something. And that event could be a sales order, it could be an upper level Kanban that needs to be produced, it could be a production order, or it could be a signal for more stock that needs to be there based on a minimum on hand. And this is really powerful, and it's a lot of what we'll see next. Because as the sales order event happens, that's what's driving production on the top level, and it's also driving production on the sub-assembly level. And this can be mixed and matched, obviously, throughout your plant with different strategies based on certain components. So in our scenario, what we've got now, I've entered a sales order, and it's loaded the assembly top-level final assembly cell based on a production sales event Kanban. The event was the sales order. And the next level down, we've got, again, another event Kanban. So as soon as I entered that sales order, it loaded both the assembly and the sub-assembly feeder cell, all just based on that one event. And what I've also got are some components that are being supplied to the line side, one via a fixed Kanban, so think of your two-bin system for common components, and one via an event Kanban, which is more like your stranger components that you don't want to stock at the line side because you don't have space, you're not using it that frequently, etc. Okay, so I'm going to go back into AX, and we're going to start to make this scenario. And one of the things that I want to tell you about in AX 2012 is the concept of a production flow. So what you see here on the screen, where we've got some process activities, we're making a subassembly, we're making an assembly, we're pulling components, we're moving things. These are actually mapped in AX in what's called a production flow. And this is what drives all of our Kanbans, this is what drives all of production, and it's mapped in AX, and it can be time-phased. So as you start to improve these processes, you could change that directly in AX. Maybe it doesn't take effect until a month from now, but it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's what's driving the software to match your shop floor. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way back to that original sales order that we entered. We're going to take a look at the pegging tree again. Okay, so here's our very top level event Kanban that's loaded the assembly work cell. If I take a step down through the BOM, I now have a subassembly that has loaded onto the work cell Rochester 4. And this is waiting to be made. I can see that by the job status. So as we start to make this, customer service could immediately see, okay, my feeder cell is, they've started production, they started it here, it's going to come out on this day. What we've also got is another event Kanban, and this is a different one. This is the transfer. So what I can see is I have a transfer for my component, LE component 1, and it hasn't been executed yet. So we don't have materials for either our subassembly or our pull to order component at our final assembly yet. So the material is not there. Let's go ahead and start producing in AX against these signals. So the first place I'm going to go is to our subassembly work cell. And what you're looking at is called the Kanban board for process jobs. And this is a board that you could literally put in front of a work cell to show exactly what needs to be produced, when it needs to be produced, and again, if I have materials to produce it. So here's our subassembly work cell, and here is our subassembly component that needs to be made. I can tell that I have the materials here because I have a supply status of green and happy. And I could literally come into this board, I could start it, but for now, for the simplicity's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and complete this. And what completing has done, it's saying, okay, my production is complete, I have consumed the material in AX for this, and I have filled my Kanban for the next level up, and I actually could look and see that I've got that component on hand now, all with one click of a button. Now there are several other options you could use. For example, I could go through different status checks, I could prepare, I could start, I could complete, but that just depends on how you run your shop floor and what information you need. So now I've completed my subassembly, and I'm going to go back to my assembly work cell, and here is our sales order that we entered. And what you're starting to get here is a status of where we are in the lower levels. So we just made that subassembly, and you can see that it's made now. We've got a good quantity of 10. My Kanban is complete. If we opened up our pegging tree, you get that visibility of what's been complete on the lower levels. And I can see that I have one more Kanban that needs completing, and this is our transfer Kanban. This is our component that's a stranger component. And for right now, I'm just going to come straight on this board, and we're going to act like a material handler, and I'm going to complete that transfer. So if you take a look now, we've got all the components we need to make this. We've got our two components. This one, LE component 2, by the way, is under a fixed Kanban. And I've got, if you take a look at our status, I can see I have one full Kanban and two empty Kanbans at my line side. These represent bins with a fixed quantity inside each one. So we're good to go. We've got all the components we need. I can do some things here again, like I could take a look at production instructions. I could print some paperwork if I need to, if that follows your process. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and where we could start this and we could complete this. And so what we've done, if we go back to our sales order, is we have produced every level of this material, and we've now got a finished good sitting in stock and a status of completed, ready for shipment. So again, what you see is the linking of customer service to production. Within production, you have an immense ability to mix and match different types of Kanbans, different types of event triggers, all matching how you work on the shop floor depending on who you are. One of the other things I kind of want to touch on, which is pretty unique about Rochester Gauges and how we implemented there, was that Rochester took their leaps cell at a time. So as Bill said, they started with the cell that had to reduce the lead time for that customer from 8 weeks to 4 weeks. And what they did was they actually focused just on that cell and left the other cells alone. And that's where you start to talk about a mixed mode planning and execution. And that is completely possible in eBECS. And what it gave Rochester was a pretty smooth implementation. So we focused on one cell, we got them live, we figured out all the processes, trained the people, trained customer service, etc. And then as it made sense, moved to the next cells, step at a time, incrementally. And as one cell was on a Kanban strategy or an event Kanban strategy, the other cells were using traditional production. So this, if nothing else, from what you take away today, eBECS is a very flexible solution. It's meant to support your processes, whatever they are per work cell, per value stream, per factory. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll take it up for questions, and we'll continue on to our last piece.